It is episode number 19 of the Traders Podcast. And man, do I feel fortunate, blessed today because we have another tremendous guest on the show, Mike Jones of Mike Jones Investing. And one of my goals of developing this podcast and the YouTube channel was to talk to traders and investors across the world to learn their approach, how they study charts, what their routines look like, what they look for, their strategies, their histories, their experiences. And today's conversation is just such a treat, and I'm so excited to share it with you here today. Now, Mike Jones, for those of you who don't know, has his own YouTube channel, which I will make sure is in the show notes. It's called Mike Jones Investing. It's pretty straightforward. It's no nonsense, and that's what you can expect from Mike. He is direct to the point. And here's the one thing that I'll say about Mike. He does his homework. You want to talk about a guy who's just tremendously knowledgeable about the markets. He talks about red folder news, which are big reports like PMI, CPI, jobs data, T-bills, everything. This guy is on it. He is super bright and he puts in the time to learn these things. But the beautiful part of it is the way that he delivers his information. It is to the point, it's direct, it's insightful, and at the same time, it is humorous. This conversation that I had the opportunity of sharing with Mike Jones today is one of my favorites. I learned so much and I laughed a lot in the process. So I'm very certain that you're going to enjoy it here today. And also, too, please take the time to go and check out his YouTube channel, Mike Jones Investing. He publishes 6 videos per week. I need to step up my game. This guy is crushing it, and they're tremendously valuable. So make sure that you check that out, subscribe, like his channel, and get ready to meet Mr. Mike Jones. All right, everybody. Boy, do I have a special treat for you. I get to introduce you, Mr. Mike Jones of Mike Jones Investing. If you haven't checked out his YouTube channel, do yourself a favor, check the show notes right now. Go visit it, because when you want to talk about somebody who is super knowledgeable about the markets, who puts in the work, who studies, and who's straightforward and no nonsense, Mike Jones is the guy. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
It's my pleasure, Jeremy. I appreciate you having me. Really do.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm going to jump right in here because this is a special date, the FMOC day. Jerome Powell's going to be speaking at 2:30. So we got work we've got to be doing here.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Mike, if you could walk us through your journey to becoming a trader and investor, and how you came about learning everything that you've learned to this point. What does your study routine look like? And then how did that ultimately lead you to creating your own YouTube channel? I think that would be very interesting for our listeners.
Well, I mean, I've always kind of been in investing for a number of years, but it was actually the YouTube channel, which I started back in 2020, that really took me down a rabbit hole, right? Because I'm one of these guys. I was actually getting my MBA at the time, and I always knew I'm good at research, but I always knew there was something behind the market that we weren't being taught in school. The mainstream media wasn't telling us,
Yeah.
like what was happening here, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I said, I'm going to start this YouTube channel, and as I learn, I'm just going to post videos on it, and people are going to watch or they're not going to watch. And my first video was literally on reverse stock splits, and I learned very quickly on, boy, you're going to get lit up by people if you don't say what they want to hear. And I remember it was green power motor. I knew nothing about reverse stock splits. I just kept hearing people saying this stock's going to the moon, blah blah blah. And I said, well, let's just look at charts and see what happens when we do reverse stock splits. And so I went back on every reverse stock split over the last like 10 years, and I showed them exactly what happens. It's going to crash, right? And people just lit me up for that. And then after it crashed, they went, oh, research does work. Yes, the charts don't lie, right? But then from there, people started emailing me, and we started talking, and you started to hear people talking about dark pools. And I'm like, what's a dark pool? I don't know what that, I never heard of it before. I was like, never
Yeah.
heard mainstream media talk about dark pools, never heard it in school in my finance classes. So I started researching that and putting that out. And then, that just kind of evolved, right? And pulling back the curtain and seeing what's really happening in the market. So I went that way with it. What are market makers? What do they do? How's the option market affect the real market? And you really start to learn the truth, and you start to learn all the things you've been taught about. Earnings are just king, and earnings mean this,
Mhm.
and you go, really? Have you seen some of these earnings coming out, or is it the long-term trend line that it bounced off of that really matters, or what the options market is doing, and things like that. And then the trading part started because I dabbled in trading, and then somebody turned me on to ICT, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is very interesting. And that was the big star. I mean, when we start talking about fair value gaps and the algos, and I've been saying for a long time that algorithms are running this market somehow. I just don't know how it's working. It's beyond me. Regular IQ, regular memory, regular guy, right? Nothing special going on here. And obviously he's more of a high IQ guy. And so somebody, I think it was one of our members turned me on to him. I started watching him, and I mean, I was like, this is it. Like this is what I've been looking for. And
Mhm.
so I made a complete shift in 2023. And I mean, I'm still making this shift because it's one of those things where it made sense to me, but I learned very quickly you can't copy trade somebody. Like
Mhm.
anybody looking to get in trading, you got to. And the reason why I'm not a doctor, but it makes sense. Then you got kids, you know this, right? And I got a kid that our minds think completely different,
Right.
right? We process information differently, and so
Right.
me and you can look at the same chart and see two totally different things. You might that was bullish, and I'm like, really? Looks bearish to me, or something. Or you see a head and shoulders? I don't see a head and shoulders. What are you talking about? And so when you look at it. And so I had to figure out how my brain works, right? I'm analytical. This is how it works for me. And what is my bias? And so that's why when I start talking about fair value gaps and market structure shifts and all this stuff, it amazes me. I'm like a nerd when it comes to this stuff. When I learn something, I love learning. I
Yeah.
love learning new stuff. And so I don't know if you saw my video I put out yesterday talking about new week opening gaps. And it's amazing when you plot those on a chart and keep them going all the way across, how many times the market will come back to them and they have a huge reaction, even weeks and months later, off of these, levels. And it's a
Yeah.
very small level, but it's stuff like that. And that's what got me into trade and made sense and started shifting things for me. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of my story, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And so going along with that, just talking about some of these concepts, and we'll get into fair value gaps and liquidity grabs, which I know are something you talk a lot about on your channel. But I'm guessing you have some type of structured routine for study, because obviously it takes a lot of time to understand how the markets work, how they operate in your charting. What does that routine look like for you?
Well, I like to say I'm a trader from usually 7 in the morning till probably noon. And then I make sure I get off the computers, walk the dogs, I work out, and then come back. And then I have to devote my stuff to YouTube and the members because I'm doing 6 public videos, 2 membership videos. And it takes time to research. I always say I'm a one-man show. And I like to make sure I have my chart set up before I put the public video out. I used to do it at night, but then that was taking time away from my family. And I'm
Mhm.
like you. I try to tell myself from 5 on till 7:30 in the morning, my family has my attention.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing that before, and so I had to really do that. And so but anytime after that, I'm just an investor, right? Looking at the charts, and it's tough. It really is. It's trying to mix those two. Like those are two totally different things.
Mhm.
So that's why I feel like I had to put a hat on to be a trader at this time, and then put my hat on to be an investor at this time.
Right.
Um, and so, and you kind of mixing two worlds together when you go into that. So for me, it's simply going into the charts, and at 4:30, once the market closes, I'll set up my previous day's lows and highs and all that
Mhm.
stuff, and have my fair value gaps mapped out, and then I'll update it in the morning once the overnight sessions have
Mhm.
gone through. And the one thing I'm really focused on as a goal of mine this year is to get very proficient at future trading
Okay.
and try to really decrease options unless I'm going to do swing trades with them or something like that. Just because I'm tired of theta and all that crazy stuff, and you can't calculate what you're going to lose, and it's just nuts. And so I'm really really focused on that this year. So that's kind of my routine and stuff. And I'm really on the long term part. I try to map out. One thing that's very powerful is long term trend lines on these charts. I don't even care what the stock is anymore. I
Yeah.
don't care. And because I've proven that, like, with Dollar General, Tesla, and there's like 10 others I put on there, like, it don't matter what the earnings are, what the news is. If those stocks are hitting a 5, 10, 15, and sometimes 40-year trend line, it's bouncing, baby. And
Yeah.
if it don't, it's going. I mean, you look at Starbucks. Starbucks fell below its long-term trend
Yeah.
line going back from '07, I think. and that stock is in major trouble. So,
Yeah.
so when I see that, I'm like, I need to go ahead and go in here. Lululemon, that would be another
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
And that was a real powerful example that you gave the other day with Tesla when it was dying, that long-term trend line where it bounced and it
Yeah.
bottomed out and then popped up and
Gone.
had that nice gap.
Yeah, and they said
Yeah.
nothing on earnings that was going to help this year's earnings at all. It was just for AI, let's go, but it was going to bounce. It was going to
Yeah.
bounce regardless. And Dollar General gave terrible earnings, and it bounced, went up 30%. Disney, that was another one. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And so
Yeah.
the charts don't lie.
Yep.
But we've been lied to in school and by mainstream media. What really moves the stock market?
Yeah.
No.
This is something that you mentioned a little bit here at the beginning of the video, and it's something that's fascinating that I think that the listeners would like to hear you expand on, and that's fair value gaps and liquidity grabs. You talk a lot about those on the YouTube channel. Can you just give a brief overview of what they are and their power in terms of reading the charts and using that in your trading and investing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try to make this really short, but go see ICT videos. But it's like it's one of those things where if you notice the market, and you can pull these up, and I would challenge you, there's actually indicators in TradingView that will put up the fair value gaps for you so you can see it. And then if you have TradingView, go back and pull back the replay feature. And when they're mapped out, you will see that the stock market it's a liquidity graph. All it does is go up and down, just searching for liquidity, orders to fill, move, all this good stuff, right? And you'll see these fair value gaps, which is nothing but an imbalance between buyers and sellers. So it goes both ways,
Mm-hmm.
and it seeks those out, and you'll see a reaction, right? You'll see an interaction right off that, and you'll see it enough time where you go, wow, it might be something to this. What's going on? Because there's no moving average there. There's no trend line.
Yeah.
But and this is how, because it's computers. We know that it's not human beings anymore
Right.
trying to do this. It's computers, right? High speed trading and all this good stuff. And it's even more frequent now because now it's around the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now you got the global community in the United States stock market really making this happen. And so you'll notice when you come over, all of a sudden there's going to be a quick move down. There was no news. Maybe there was some ref folder news. They usually use it
Yeah.
for that. And a big move down, you'll see these big candles, and there's no body to the left and no other candle body to the right of it. And that's the displacement down, right? Here's the liquidity
Mm-hmm.
graph. You'll watch it. It'll come up, and it's going to hit one of those fair value gaps and continue to sell down a lot of times, right? If it violates it and goes straight through, then you'll see a powerful move
Mm-hmm.
going up. And so it's again, I'm doing a terrible job with that, but
No, it's great.
you'll see it. I'm one of those people. I don't teach it. I just, I can do it, but teaching is two different things. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
master of that stuff. And I'm not an ICT trader. I'm not, because he goes way in depth. I mean, his models and everything else is great for him, and he has a huge following. I just like to incorporate a lot of the things that maybe I use and he uses into what I do. But
Right.
yeah, and you'll see it. But it's nothing, guys, but liquidity grabs all day long. That's all
Yeah.
it is. Some people call them failed breakouts, failed whatever, but I call it liquidity grab.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a firm believer in what moves the market.
Yep, fascinating stuff. And just looking back, at your journey into trading, you said this is something you've always had an interest in. From your experience, what advice would you give to people just starting out, learning how to trade or learning how to invest? What are some key things to keep in mind in this process?
On the investing part, one, never fall in love with the stock, ever. I don't care what you think about it. Never fall in love with their CEO. None of it. They don't care about you. All right. You look at their fundamentals. More important, look at the chart. Right.
Yeah.
See if it's a bullish structure or a bear structure. Learn what that is. Okay. That's number one. Okay. Number two, understand that you got to have a plan going into this thing, and you got to know when to cut bait. All right. And so maybe you were wrong. I'm sure there's people in stocks that are way up here and they're going, it's coming back, baby. And I'm like, you might be holding for years. Your money
Yeah.
is precious. Don't be stuck in a stock for 10 years where you're still down and you could have already rotated out that money, that capital, and it's something else that's going up. All right.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're a long-term investor, learn what the business cycle is. That is key to everything. That's another thing you will not learn in school or anywhere else. So learn what the business cycle is, how it works. You can plot it out on a chart and you can pull up the stock market right over it and you'll see it. And all that means is, as you know, for example, when new orders are going up in this country, we're expanding. Employment's going up normally, right? What's the stock market going to be doing? It's going to be going up because earnings look great,
Yeah.
right? Companies are laying off and orders are coming down. That's usually not a time where the stock market is going to be going to, crazy all-time high type things a lot of times. So just understand it don't matter who's president, There's always an end to a business cycle. It has nothing to do with the president, who's in charge. That is key for investing. So you're not coming in at the wrong time. And have a plan for how you're going to invest. Like dollar cost averaging, don't just do it blindly. Look at your moving averages. Look at the MACD crosses, especially the weekly MACD crosses or stochastic RSI crosses. There's plenty of free tools you can use where you get more bang for your buck. And I'm telling you, whatever you do as an investor, get you an Excel spreadsheet, draw it out, and figure out how much you're investing. Pay yourself first. You will be stunned at how fast you could build up your wealth. It is amazing to watch just on an 8% return.
Right.
And how you do it. I'm telling you, do it. And if you visually see it, then you can tell your spouse or whoever, go, wow, look at this right here. We could be a millionaire by this date. And they'll go, really? And you're like, yes, we just got to keep the losses to a minimum, stay disciplined, stay and live within our means, right? And then when it comes to trading, it's simple. Paper trade until you come up with your system. When you have mastered your system, because I didn't do it. I paper traded and I went into it without my system. Like, oh boy, this ain't good, right? You got to go back to the square one on this. But paper trade until you come up with your system, whatever that is. Again, your brain is going to process information differently. So if you try to copy somebody and you're going, man, this ain't working, it's because your brain doesn't process the charts like they do. You're not comfortable with it. You have to figure out, what works for you, and don't let anybody shield you from that. I hate when traders who are successful, and don't believe that 90% win rate crap, by the way. That's ridiculous. And every trader no, that doesn't make any. Some of the best traders I've ever seen literally have a 55% win rate, but they keep the losses to a minimum and then let the winners run, right? Learn what a runner is, by the way. You got to keep those in there. But, that's to me the key. Come up with your system, whatever it is. Like my goal this year was, I don't know why I love indicators. I was like, I'm getting rid of all the indicators on the day trade part of things.
Yeah.
Just going to have my levels and run my system and force yourself to do that. Like get comfortable, whatever it is you want to do. But, that's the key. I mean, it's price action, it's momentum in this day and age. And figure out, are you because day trader is brutal, man. Day trading is brutal. You might be a better swing trader, right? 2 or 3 days, maybe a week out.
Yeah.
It seems to be less stressful. I mean, that's the way to go. And understand, don't let the losses deter you because you're going to lose money. So you better have a cap. If you're starting with 10K, what's your minimum drawdown before your wife divorces you? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's to me what you got to figure out.
That's the litmus test right there.
How much can I lose, sweetheart?
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Because anyway, what you got to look at is it's education. It's like paying for a degree, right? That's your payment. And you got to study. You got to find people that are good at it. And what are they doing? Maybe you can get some ideas from them.
Yeah.
How are they doing this? And the number one thing that I think is the hardest for anybody is the discipline of it. Like you got to stay disciplined. This YOLO crap attitude. I'm gonna play every earnings, and people don't realize you can be right on the earnings. Yeah. But if it don't beat the expected move, you're going to get crushed. Yeah. I've been right many times and got crushed. And I finally said, I'm done. Like this, it makes no sense. It's like, good Lord, unless there's just a huge, huge opportunity, I will take a very small risk. I played SoFi the other day because I knew the upside could be 25%. What the heck? And so I just bought like a couple options, very, $100, $150. And I knew it was going to go to zero if it didn't work. But if it went up, great. But that's the only kind of thing I'll play. Is it within my favor? Great.
Yeah.
And so, but preserve your capital. And a winning day is a day where you don't lose no money. You might have taken 0 trades, but you know what? My balance is the same as it was when I started today, buddy. It ain't down 1,000 because I was trying to gamble and force a trade.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of my 2 cents.
That's great. Great stuff. This is tremendous. And again, you're gonna go check out Mike's YouTube channel. This will be linked in the show notes, but you'll get more of this. So this is just pure value. Going along with that, Mike, here, again, I appreciate your time. Talking about, advice for traders. What were some of your most difficult lessons from the market? Because they say the market will eventually humble you. It happens to all of us. So what was maybe the most difficult lesson that you had, or biggest loss, or best experience, biggest win, if you'd be willing to share?
No doubt the biggest one, humbling. I just had to learn when to cut, man. It ain't coming back. You know what I'm saying? You get down, 50% option. You're like, it's gonna turn, and that happens, right? Like you sell it, and then immediately it turns after that. Yeah. But it went, you got stopped out. It's like, oh man, I knew it. And then the next time you go, I'm gonna set my stop loss even farther down, and it's like, oh, you know what? Just cut the loss. Just be done with it. And so that was, I mean, because I remember when I first started the first month. I mean, good Lord, I had to be down at least like 3,000. And it was like, okay, I was like, I'm gonna start 10,000 and here we go. And that's why I said, okay, what are we doing here? Let's re-examine what is happening. Because I was getting stopped out on a lot of stuff and my stop
Mhm.
loss was too tight. What was
Mhm.
happening? Because you got to learn, yes, that if you don't set it at the level, you go below the key level because they're gonna try
Yeah.
to wick you out.
Right.
And so that was probably, the biggest one is you got to minimize the losses. Good Lord, I had trouble with that at first. And then revenge trading. That was the other one. Just being honest, going, nope, I got it this time. And that was, yeah, that was hard lessons to learn. And as I tell my son, learn it from me. You don't have to do it yourself and make the same mistake. It's okay. And probably, I mean, I don't have like these crazy days everybody has because I'm conservative, but probably the best day I ever have. I mean, only like 2 or 3 thousand in a day, but it's because I had a earnings that it had reported good the night before, and when it opened, I looked at the chart and I was like, this thing's fixing the gamma squeeze, and so I just went with the zero DDT options
Yeah.
and ran it up, and it was nice. I was really happy that day. I treated myself to McDonald's for lunch, so it's rare for me. I'm living my means guy. I got hot fudge sundae and everything on that day. I told my wife, I was like, look at this. He's like, wow, and I was like, yeah, that's what it can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can have that, but don't go into trading thinking that's every day. You see these guys on Twitter. I made $7,000 a day. You're like, okay, yeah. Show me
Would you?
that $7,000 loss you had 2 weeks ago. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Fantastic stuff. Just a couple more here so we can get off here. I know it's 1:36. The rate decision's coming out here pretty soon. Any resources or tools that you would recommend to people just getting started?
Well, I mean, YouTube is just filled with it, right? I think I would say this: instead of watching ICT videos, if you're going to go to stuff like that, I would go to just type it in. You'll see channels that condense it down because he likes to talk a lot. I'll condense it down to 8, 10 minutes because your time is precious, right? Get to the
Yep.
meat and potatoes of things. But definitely use YouTube and search out. Like I literally, and I'm always doing this. I have a notebook beside me. I will hear a term that I go, what is that? And I'm like, and so I'll write it down. I'll say there's a research list. And as I go through my day, I'm just researching constantly what that is and trying to figure out how to learn it. And if I can incorporate it, great. If it makes sense to me, I go, yes, it's gonna make me a better trader, investor, whatever it is. Do that for sure. I don't know about. I'm not really big on paying 3 to 5 thousand for a trading course. I mean, you can do it, but there's just so much free stuff out there for you.
Mhm.
I use that capital to trade with or invest.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it, then go pay somebody, I guess, to do it. But
Yeah.
that's pretty much what I do, and just continue to research, continue to try to get better at something. And again, just preserve your capital and stay positive, because
Yeah.
it's going to be a battle. But once you get it, and I'll tell you the biggest thing too is try to, and this is one thing I really focus on this year for me is try to be able to look at a chart. And this is when you know you got it, and I don't have it yet. Try to look at a chart and figure out where the heck is going for the day before the market even opens up at 9:30. What's your bias, right? I called it on Monday, and I've even forced myself to put some stuff in the Discord now to put pressure on me to
Yeah.
say this, watch this level and look for a lot of confluence. I forgot to say that when there is confluence, you're going to have a bounce or a rejection. And so Monday, when I looked at the futures, I said, boy, look at this level down here. I forgot what the level was, but it had the previous day's low, it had a pre-market low, and it also had London low, and it had the 100 moving average right below it with a fair value gap. I said, and it was equal lows. Always look for equal lows, equal highs, right? Because it's liquidity grabs. And I said, man, watch this level. This is going to be a huge level. And that's exactly where it went. It dropped like, I don't know, 0.8% or whatever to finally get there. And that's where it bounced from. But if you can do that, man, I mean, the best ones do that.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. That is something else. I'm not there yet.
You're selling yourself too short. You do great work. And speaking of that, where can the viewers check out your stuff? And can you tell us about the Discord group that you run?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to Mike Jones Investing again and watch. I do 6 public videos a week. I cut out Fridays so I could actually do my Saturday and Sunday video. I do a viewer's question video on Saturdays. If you have questions, I try to put on there for Saturday for you. And then I do 2 members videos Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you'll see it if you watch the video. Go down there and you'll see the Patreon group and stuff. And it's literally like I say, less than McDonald's combo, $7.99. And my whole goal is always been and it always will be, as you've seen, to just try to help normal people like me, everyday working people. I can't say Americans anymore because people all over the globe watch it too, but it's like, everyday working people to
Yeah.
more important. My whole goal is I tell everybody to pass it on to the next generation. My goal in this channel, whether it ends tomorrow or 10 years from now, and I have a private notebook in my Discord, nobody can see, for my son, right? He's 8 years old. He was 5 when I started this, because I want him to have the option. He can go into the rat race when he gets 18, just like I did and 99.9% of Americans do, or you can have another option and take control of your life, and you dictate what you want to do. Hold it up to you. But to have the knowledge, here it is. Here's my mistakes. Here's what I've learned. Here's the people I've met, that kind of stuff. So
wow,
that's what it's all about.
Wow. Mike, this is one of my favorite interviews that I've ever had the chance to do. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom with me and with the listeners and the viewers. We appreciate you very much. And hopefully we can get you back on here soon, maybe in a couple months.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Go NVIDIA.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's where you point out, don't fall in love with the stock. And here I am wearing an NVIDIA hat.
No,
so.
it's okay. Hey, if it's making you money, fall in love with it all you want.
There we go. All right, Mike. Hey, you take care. And like I said, check out the show notes. We're going to have Mike's YouTube channel listed there. And we'll see you back here on the next episode of the Traders Podcast.